Hey folks, welcome back to my neck of the woods. My name's Dika, where I share my experience and my knowledge, hoping to lessen your learning curve. So today I'm going to talk about circle hooks. Are circle hooks better? Are they superior? Do they work better than J hooks and other style hooks? The short answer is yes. But before I get started, please sub my channel, like my videos, and make some comments. You know that I love the comments. So, circle hooks. We have circle hooks here. I think they genuinely have their place, but they do work better than J hooks and other style hooks. I believe that many fishermen out there across the country, they're resistant to circle hooks at first, until they find out that they're just using them incorrectly. So I'm going to talk about circle hooks, and I'm going to give you some insight on circle hooks, and I'm going to tell you why they're better and why potentially you should use them for certain applications, all right? So we have a circle hook here, right? This is an Adok Gamakatsu circle hook. And across the globe, I would think that fishermen are resistant to this, and I believe it's because they're using them incorrectly. Myself included, I used circle hooks for some freshwater bass applications, and I felt that I was missing lots of hookups. The problem was I was setting the hook. You don't have to set the hook when you use a circle hook. In fact, you shouldn't set the hook. The hook sort of seats itself inside the fish's mouth as it's leaving. So when, as opposed to it running and then you pull the hook out and set the hook, this just kind of does what it needs to do, and it usually just seats right in the side or sometimes in the top of the mouth. You hardly ever gut hook with a circle hook, and it decreases mortality rates for fish, and ultimately that's what we want, unless we're keeping them to eat them, you know. So let me give you some insight here on your circle hooks. The way to identify a circle hook for the most part is that it's going to be much more circular. It's not going to have any sort of extra wide gap, and this point is going to come up and be seated parallel to the shaft. Now these, I have some other types. These are inline circle hooks here. They come up parallel to the shaft. This one over here, this one has a bit of a teaser on it. Also an inline circle hook. I put them on saltwater plugs after striped bass and bluefish and whatnot. All right, so, and a lot of times it bends in. Some of these Gamakatsu ones, that hook or that barb will bend in towards it. Now there are inline ones. These are inline, as you can see. That, let's see how it's just straight like that, and then there are offset ones like this. You can see it is slightly offset. An offset circle hook is going to work better than an inline circle hook in all applications. All right, so they have their place. Bait fishing mostly. If you're going to go out and use a circle hook and you're going to try to Texas rig a Senko worm, it's not going to work for you. You need that offset extra wide gap, or you're going to need an offset J hook to hide that hook and to get that profile. But if you're out catfishing, you want to use a circle hook. If you're out catfishing with bait and going after big cats, you're going to want a circle hook. If you're, I use them mainly for striped bass applications with using bait, and you're going to want to use a circle hook. Your hookup ratios are going to increase once you learn it. Once you learn to use it better, and your mortality rate on your fish is going to decrease, and that's ultimately what you want. So I fish in Massachusetts, and it's the law. You have to use a circle hook when using bait. I believe Maryland and DC and New York and New Jersey, I believe a lot of those states right up in my area here are also the same. I believe in New Jersey you have to use an inline one. You can't use an offset one. Offset one works better in my opinion. All right, so about a circle hook. What kind of rod do you want to use, right? For the most part, you want to use like a medium or a medium heavy rod, regardless of the application. Just suit it to the size that you're going after. So if you're going up after large or smallmouth bass and you're going to use worms or some sort of live shiner, you want to be using a circle hook, and you want to gear it to the size of the fish. So you want to use a medium or a medium heavy. The reason for that is because you want that tip. I know you can get heavies and other ones with a soft tip, but I think the medium is just going to hold up better. Soft tip or a fast tip, something that's just going to be a little flimsy up top. Sorry, I keep kicking the table here. And it's going to allow that fish to pull this away, and the hook is going to set itself. You do not need these power sets. You don't need to do that with a circle hook. What you need to do is you wait for that fish to pull it away. Even some of those little taps that you get, striper fishing I'm talking about, maybe catfish do the same thing. I'm not keen on how to fish for catfish for the most part. All you want to do is you can do one or two things, or you can do both. Slight pressure back. Just slight pressure back, and then you hold once that fish is hooked, then you have to hold some firm pressure for the most part to keep that fish pinned. Or what you can do is you can bring the rod forward and you can reel down on that fish. Sometimes I do a little of both. But those heavy hook sets, you're going to lose those fish for the most part, because the hook isn't going to be allowed to do what it needs to do. So a lot of times when you put bait on a circle hook, put it through, and you want to leave that much or more of the hook exposed in your bait. You don't want to bury it in there. You want to leave that so when the fish bites into it, a lot of times what's going to happen is this is going to fall sideways, and if it is offset like this, that tiny little bit is going to catch it, and it's going to hook right in the side of the jaw. One thing that you need to pay close attention to, and I see this time and time again with people, is that they don't use a hook that's big enough. They think maybe, well, I'm losing hookups, so I'm going to go to a smaller hook. You need to go to a bigger hook. The size of the target fish that you're going after, the lower jaw needs to be able to fit in that area. So if you go smaller, so say this one's a little smaller here. See how that's just a little bit smaller there? And I'm not sure about this one. That one's roughly the same size. But you want to make sure that the lower jaw of the target species that you're going after fits in that space, which a lot of times I see people, they needed to go bigger. Now this is an 8/0. I could use bigger than this, but sometimes people are using 7s or 6s or 5s to go after striped bass, or even catfish. Catfish lower jaw is similar in size to a striped bass. That's what you want. You want that lower jaw to be able to fit into that, because that's where this is going to hide. It's going to go right in the corner, and it's going to work almost most times, and you're going to increase your hookups. All right. So like I said before, you want the hook to be exposed through the bait. A lot of people I see, they'll hook it through and then they'll wrap it around and say, oh, I have to hide the hook. You don't. Not in saltwater applications. Freshwater, maybe, but even so, you really don't for the most part. All right. So you just need to keep that like so. And as far as the knots, I really think any knot works good with a circle hook, but there are two that excel for whatever reason, and they just hold the hook. When the fish pulls on it, it's going to pull the hook upright. One is a snell knot. Excuse me, my gum here. The snell knot is probably by far one of the best knots that you want to use, and there are a variant amount of snell knots that you can use also. But a basic snell knot where the pressure is basically on the shaft and it pulls against the eye of the hook. That is good. And also a surgeon's loop is also an excellent application for a circle hook. I use a surgeon's loop myself. A lot of times I'll use like sort of some variant of a high-low rig, which I'm going to do another video on. And I have a bottom rig that I use surgeon knots in. I'll put that up in the corner here so you can view that if you'd like to. But that's what you want. You want a knot that's going to sort of hold that sort of upright, and not so much hold it upright is when it hits. You don't want that. You kind of, I don't want to say you don't want it to turn, but when it does turn inside the fish's mouth, you want it to have a little bit of resistance, because that's going to help the hook get seated in the side of the mouth. All right. I'm going to recap here. Offsets are better. They're always better. And go bigger if you can. Get that, I'm recapping here. Get that fish jaw line, bottom jaw in that area right there. And when you take these out, they're very easy to take out. That you don't really have to like wench them out like you do like even a J hook. for the most part, you just give it a little bit of twist, and it makes a little bit of space, and you pull it out. If you can't get it that way, you can always sort of bang the back side here with, sometimes I'll just use my hand, or you can use something hard or whatever, if you've got a fish grip or whatever, and you just bang the back side, and it's gonna push it forward, and then you can just wiggle it right out. They're usually very easy to get out of the mouths of fish. Even catfish, largemouth bass, striped bass is the majority of my application. But it should work for you if you use it correctly. Don't hook set. Don't do that big hook set, and you're gonna catch more fish, guaranteed. And if you are using, see, I put inline circle hooks on all of my plugs. I get rid of trebles, because trebles they're awful on the fish. And once you get a treble in your hand, you're gonna change, because it's awful. But as you can see, and if you do put them on your plugs, you just want to face them outward. So this one is going to swim like this, and this one's going to swim like this. So when that fish does come in and hit this, you're going to get that fish good. All right? All I got for you. Sub the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Be well. Tight lines.